Hello and welcome. You're watching To The Point. This evening we focus on two key developments connected with demonetization. In part two, we ask, was the opposition right to disrupt Parliament after Prime Minister Modi appeared in the Rajya Sabha in the first half but wasn't there after lunch? After all, the Finance Minister had promised that the Prime Minister would speak, so was it essential for him to be there all the time? But we begin in part one with Dr. Manmohan Singh's speech in the Rajya Sabha. It was a devastating attack on demonetization. He called it organized loot and legalized plunder and said it was a case of monumental management failure. How do the political parties respond? My guests are TMC MP Sukhendu Shekhar Roy, CPI MP D. Raja, BJD MP Pinaki Mishra, Congress MP Rajiv Gowda and BJP MP Kirat Somaiya. Kirat Somaiya, let's start with Dr. Manmohan Singh's speech in the Rajya Sabha today. He said, whilst he shared the government's objectives, the implementation of demonetization was a case of organized loot and legalized plunder. Now that is sharp criticism. How do you respond to it?
We certainly welcome. At least the Congress once again restarted the debate. Simultaneously, the former Prime Minister has expressed concern. We acknowledge the same also. And Karan, I will read out his last line, concluding line. The Prime Minister will view that this late hour will help us to find out, practical, pragmatic ways and means to provide relief. Actually, we were expecting that the former Prime Minister, Manmohan Singh, will also suggest the ways and means what he feels at this hour we have to do. Because he knows.
Can I stop you there? I'll come to the question of what relief is necessary in a moment's time. I promise you I will. But for now, let me ask you once again how you respond to the claim this is organized loot and legalized plunder. Do you accept it or do you reject it?
That's what certainly on one side former Prime Minister says that 55%, 90%, 99% poor. Now where is the question of loot? Because each and every note anybody have, the bank will accept it. And Mr. Manmohan Singh, Dr. Manmohan Singh very well knows that just 1% of the population have 99% of black money, whatever have in currency. So where is the question of loot? It is a loot of the black market here. Yes, we accept it. We want to recover that loot.
Rajiv Gowda, on the other hand, to call demonetization organized loot and legalized plunder requires at least some proof. Dr. Manmohan Singh in his speech had none to offer whatsoever. So let me ask you, because you're the spokesman of the party, do you have proof to justify this language?
What is loot and plunder, Karan? Essentially, when when you used to have invaders coming in, and I'm getting an echo in my earpiece. Okay, essentially, basically, you are going to have a situation where people lose their jobs, their money, their livelihood, and that's exactly what's going on right now with this monumental mismanaged initiative of the government in the form of demonetization. You want evidence? Please look at the number of people who have lost their jobs.
Can I interrupt
look at
you?
the number of transporters who have not been able to move their vehicles. Look at the
Professor Gowda,
self-help groups
permit me
and the
to
people with
interrupt you
microfinance who are not
because
able to
I'm questioning the basis on which you are framing your reply. You are interpreting loot and plunder as people losing jobs. But remember, people lose jobs in a recession. People lose jobs when the economy slows down. That's not loot and plunder. Loot and plunder is something very specific. So I come back again to my question. Do you have proof to justify the use of those words?
These are strong words. And when people's money is locked up and they're not allowed to use that money, by the government coming up with diktats which come in the way of people having access to what is legally and rightfully theirs, which comes in the way of them being able to pay their exam fees, participate in the economy. These are all examples of the government essentially clamping down. This is a self-inflicted mega wound to the Indian economy. It's not just a recession that's happened.
So
because
was he using that language metaphorically and colorfully rather than literally?
I would say so. I would say so, because we are all at a loss for words to describe the monumental blunder that Mr. Modi has inflicted on the Indian economy.
Let me bring in Pinaki Mishra. Pinaki Mishra, Dr. Manmohan Singh also said that the implementation was a case of, and I'm quoting him, monumental management failure. Given the acute shortage of cash, and today many people have told me that in fact banks are not even honoring the 24,000 rupee a week limit. Several banks have refused to cash checks above 10,000 full stop. So that's one element of the shortage of cash. The second element is, even now, by the government's own admission, just about 50% of ATMs have been recalibrated. Given those two situations, is the phrase monumental management failure an accurate description in your eyes?
I think it is not just accurate, Karan. It was lucid, it was crisp, it was classic Manmohan Singh on the floor of the House. I've always said he is one of the finest virtuoso parliamentarians. It's a pity the Congress party didn't let him speak more in his years as Prime Minister. It was a performance which was dripping with class, dripping with gravitas, with sobriety. And truly, I mean, it was a savage indictment of the government, spoken with the kind of subtlety that only Manmohan Singh is capable of. I'm reminded of the time he was sparring with Sushma ji in the last parliament, when he was Prime Minister, that classic "Mana ke tere deed ke kabil nahi hu main, tu mera shauq to dekh, mera intezar to dekh." It was an absolutely extraordinary performance. It was a pleasure to hear him today on the floor of the House.
Mr. Raja, Dr. Manmohan Singh said that the fact that every day the government is coming up with changes in the rules and regulations that define how much you can withdraw and who can do the withdrawing, and by the way, it's widely expected, I should add at this point in parenthesis, that there will be more changes announced this evening. He said all of this reflects very poorly on the Prime Minister's office, on the Finance Minister's office and the RBI. Would you accept that?
Yes, Ms. Karan, because Dr. Manmohan Singh is not just a member of Rajya Sabha. He is a former Prime Minister of India, he is former Finance Minister of India, he is former Governor of Reserve Bank of India. He knows how the system works in our country, and whatever he has said, he might have said all these things from his own experience and from his own agony, and the language which he used, it is not just indictment of the government. Government cannot undermine or ignore his words. Government will have to take them seriously, and even at this point of time, government should act with open mind to its policy. That's what I understand, because
all right, I think you finished speaking. Sukhendra Shekhar Roy, the former Prime Minister said that demonetization would particularly hit agricultural growth, small industry and the informal sector. He then said it could reduce GDP by 2%. On the other hand, Derek O'Brien, speaking literally minutes after the former Prime Minister, said that 3.75 lakh of GDP had been lost in the last 15 days. Now that's 2.5% of GDP in 15 days. In contrast, Dr. Manmohan Singh was talking about 2% over a whole year. So where does Derek O'Brien get his hugely exaggerated figure from?
Whatever our leader, Mr. Derek O'Brien, has said, that is based on the calculations and assessment made by our party. And assessment
so share those calculations with me.
One to other.
So why don't you share those calculations with me?
No, you see. No. you see, the calculations have been made by our party insiders. I am not an economic expert, and I can only say that our leader, whatever has been stated by our leader, that is as per based on the assessment of our party, number one.
But can I interrupt? Can I interrupt?
I am
Mr.
not
Roy,
here to
let me
criticize
interrupt
or
you,
support the
because
views of-
what Derek O'Brien said is that the country had lost 3.75 lakh in 15 days flat. Now, as I said, 3.75 lakh is 2.5% of GDP. If you've lost it in 15 days, that's suggesting, by my back of the envelope calculations, that by the end of the year, at this rate of loss, it'll be monumental, unimaginable. You'd virtually write off your GDP if Derek O'Brien is to be believed, and if this carries on for a whole year.
Undoubtedly, it is unimaginable. Yes, I tell you one thing. Even Fitch, internationally noted rating agency Fitch, they have also stated that the situation which has arisen out of this demonetization, our own calculations may be wrong, and we have to revise the fourth quarter of this financial year about the GDP growth of India. Therefore, an international rating agency also saying like that. Therefore, I have already stated that calculations may differ from one to other, but that does not necessarily mean that a party does not have any mechanism to assess. Our mechanism may be much more than others.
You've given your explanation in justification of Derek O'Brien's figure. I'm not going to question it further, but I will underline for the audience, because it's only right and proper that I should, that to have lost 3.75 lakh crore in 15 days flat, which amounts to 2.5% of GDP, is almost so incredible that it's virtually impossible to believe. But if that's your belief, you have a right to it. Kirit Sumaya, even if there isn't any agreement on the percentage, would you accept that GDP will be badly affected? And if Dr. Manmohan Singh is correct in saying that it could be a 2% hit, and remember, he after that added a statement, not an. If a 2% hit happens, in addition, India will lose its proud position of being the fastest growing economy in the world. We will then definitely have fallen behind China.
Presently, I am observing in last 10 days, so many people are floating several figures, several predictions, and what are the base calculation, they only know. Certainly we respect Honorable Prime Minister, former Prime Minister Manmohan Singh. I am not asking a question at this level what the Congress has done for last 60 years, Manmohan Singh has 10 years to bring back the black money. But simultaneously, it is an oversimplification. Daily new figures are coming up. Oversimplification to unnecessary bring such type of attention and attraction.
So you're saying Dr. Manmohan Singh's 2% figure is oversimplification designed to attract attention?
Only postponement of the purchases.
All right, you're saying Dr. Manmohan Singh, or at least you're suggesting Dr. Manmohan Singh's figure of 2% is oversimplification designed to attract attention. Pinaki Mishra, let's leave figures aside. Let's focus on the informal sector. This sector is one that Dr. Manmohan Singh talked about. It's 45% of GDP and it creates 80% of the country's jobs. So would you accept that an adverse impact on the informal sector means that pretty close to 50% of India in terms of GDP and 4/5 of India in terms of employment will suffer? How much, we don't know, but it will suffer by that size and proportion.
Oh, there's no question at all. Naveen Patnaik has flagged this repeatedly, twice, first to the Finance Minister, then to the Honorable Prime Minister. We are going to take a massive hit. There is no question. How much of a hit? Only time will tell how soon this recovery process will be underway. But at the moment, we are really, you're only looking at the urban mess, which is beginning to, I think, recover a little bit now. You have no idea about, the rural areas and the far-flung rural areas where the informal sector has taken a savage hit. There is no question at all. And on the back of a very good monsoon, after 2 drought years, a very good monsoon, the anticipation of GST being passed, there is no question that India was poised for acceleration of, mind-boggling proportions. And that there's no question will be arrested now.
Okay.
How quickly, we can reverse this is now up to the government. It's really the government really has to work in fifth or sixth gear now,
Okay.
in order to try and reverse this.
Rajiv Gowda, Dr. Manmohan Singh also raised another very important point. He said there's probably no other country in the world where people are not allowed to withdraw their own money from their own bank account. Now, this is clearly against the law in India too. Do you propose to take this matter up in the courts as a party?
For a start, we've actually brought this up in Parliament. There are privilege motions being filed about the illegalities involved in this entire move, violations of the RBI Act, and essentially, whenever demonetization of any minimal sort was done in the past, it was done through an ordinance, through legal backing for the move. In this case, there doesn't seem to have been anything of that sort.
But
and
just a moment.
the number
Just
of
a moment.
violations are coming
Rajiv
out.
Gowda,
And
I'm not
therefore,
talking
there will
about
be-
the absence
we'll-
of legal
at the
backing
moment
for
we're pursuing it in
demonetization.
Parliament. We'll have
That's
to
a different issue. I'm asking you whether you will take up in court as a party yourself, i.e. Congress, the point that Dr. Manmohan Singh made, that people are not being allowed to withdraw as much as they want of their own money from their own bank accounts. That's a different issue, and that is a restriction that is illegal. As I understand it, will your party take this up? So far, Congress hasn't. I'm asking you if you will.
Yeah, we will pursue this. We will
In
pursue
court?
this. And let me point out, in the context of the
And you'll
previous
pursue it in
discussion
court.
that was
I'm just
going
asking
on,
you for clarity. You'll
in
pursue
court,
it in court.
in Parliament, on the streets, wherever.
Does
Absolutely,
wherever include court?
Absolutely. We will, the entire
Does
opposition
wherever
will join
include
us
court?
includes court. Yes, sure.
Okay. Mr.
I
Raja,
do not have the party's answer on this, but I cannot see a reason to not say yes.
well, that's
Absolutely,
a very
this has to
different
be fought
answer
in court as
suddenly.
well.
You're now speaking entirely for yourself. You see no reason why the party shouldn't, but you're not telling me whether the party will or won't. So let's be absolutely
I'm
clear.
talking
You're
about
not
what's
giving me
happening in
any
Parliament.
commitment on behalf of your party.
Okay, we'll make the statement. We will pursue it in court. Yeah.
So are you saying that as a party spokesman, or are you saying that individually in your own right?
No, I'm going to push this and see where it goes.
In other words, you'll try and persuade your party, but that's still not saying your party will take it up, because it might not be persuaded by you. But thank you for that clarity. D. Raja, Dr. Manmohan Singh even questioned Prime Minister Modi's claim that the pain would only last for 50 days. He said, and I think I'm quoting him correctly, 50 days of torture for the poor can be disastrous. Yet the paradox is, all the surveys and all the anecdotal evidence we have suggests that the poor, despite the fact they're standing in lines waiting for hours, despite the fact they're losing their money in the process because they can't earn their daily wages, despite all of that, all the surveys suggest the poor support what Mr. Modi has done. How do you explain that paradox?
In fact, the decision of the present government to demonetize 500 rupee note or 1000 rupee note has caused a huge financial turmoil in the country, and it has subjected the common people in extreme hardships, humiliations, and unimaginable
That
miseries.
I don't deny,
That
but
is
what
why
I'm
the
saying
left
is the
parties
same
are
common
also
people, as you call them, support what Mr. Modi has done. How do you explain that paradox?
No, what is the paradox? Mr. Modi says common people are very happy, they are sleeping peacefully. What is that? There is a total disconnect between government's understanding and the ground reality.
Govt has done a survey in pretty close to 50% of the parliamentary constituencies of this country, which says that 86% of the people say that in fact the pain is justified if you are fighting corruption. 66% say it's both a good idea and is being implemented well. Those surveys suggest that despite the pain and suffering, the people are with Mr. Modi. And that's the paradox I'm putting to you. How do you explain it? Or can you not explain it?
Yeah, exactly. That is what I am questioning. What is the survey? Who is doing that survey? Yesterday they talked about 90% of the people support Ms. Modi, and today in Parliament it was challenged. If you think 90% of the people support you, now let us go for elections.
I'm
let
not
us see
talking
what
about Mr. Modi's WhatsApp survey. I'm talking about the C voter one. But let me bring in Sukhendu Shekhar Roy on the same point. Mr. Roy, television has shown endless numbers of people standing in queues for hours on end. There's no doubt they're tired and frustrated. But practically every one of them has at the same time said they support what Mr. Modi is doing. And these are people who are suffering because they are standing and they are waiting, but they still support what he's doing. And that's the paradox I put to you as well. How do you explain it? The pain's undeniable, but so is the support for Mr. Modi in terms of fighting black money.
I don't believe this, because you see, in this country or anywhere in the world, nobody will speak in favor of black money. If our Prime Minister says I am doing all these things to curb the black money, everybody will support him in principle. But the fact remains, if at all the government is serious to curb the black money, then everybody knows that black money is not stored in the house in boxes. If black money is stored in foreign currency, in gold, in real estate, and according to experts,
but the problem,
huge
Mr.
amount
Roy,
of money. Even
is
CBI
that the
director
people
in
themselves
2012,
are
he
saying,
stated,
despite the pain, that they think this is the right thing to do. They're not saying, and I'm interrupting you, they're not saying that the fight against money is a good fight, but it's being implemented badly. There are very few people saying that.
What
and that's
about
the paradox.
bringing that black money back to India?
All right.
That is the moot question. If this government is serious to weed out black money, then they should initiate action against those who have stashed black money outside this country.
All right, Mr. Roy, black money outside the country is different to black money inside the country, because you can't lay your hands on the former doesn't mean you shouldn't tackle the latter. But let's take a break. We've discussed Dr. Manmohan Singh's speech and its impact fairly fully. Let's come back and turn to the second development today, the fact that the Prime Minister was present in the Rajya Sabha, the fact that the Finance Minister had given a commitment he would speak in the Rajya Sabha, but just because he wasn't sitting there after lunch, the House got disrupted by the opposition. Was the opposition right to do that? Has it acted unjustifiably? Or is the opposition right to say that because Dr. Manmohan Singh was there for 2 full days during the 2G debate, they have a right to expect exactly the same of Mr. Modi this time round? We'll be back in a moment's time. The disruption of Parliament. Professor Govt, up till now, the opposition has been demanding the Prime Minister's presence in the Rajya Sabha and a commitment he would speak. Today, the Prime Minister was present, and Arun Jaitley twice confirmed he would participate in the debate. Yet in the afternoon, just because the Prime Minister wasn't there immediately after lunch, you disrupted the House and you wouldn't let it function. How do you justify that?
I was in the House, and our leader of the opposition, Ghulam Nabi Azad, when he saw the Prime Minister come into the House, he told the chair, he said, we are happy to see him here, but we want to make sure that he is going to sit.
And you got that commitment twice from Arun Jaitley. I've said all that.
Listen to us through.
I've said that, sir. Come to the point. Question I asked you.
We didn't get that commitment.
You got it twice.
Then where was the Prime Minister?
And forgive me, not only did you get it,
we got a commitment
Ghulam
saying
Nabi
he will not
Azad
come,
even
he
referred
will not
to it
come
himself.
only for question hour,
Ghulam
not
Nabi
just for
Azad
question hour,
even
that he
himself
would
referred to the
participate
commitment.
further.
I'm asking you, just because the Prime Minister wasn't sitting there after lunch, you disrupted the House. What made you feel he wouldn't come back? He's Prime Minister, he's got a right to do other things. He's not going to spend the whole day there.
The BJP, well, our Prime Minister, when we were in power, did spend entire days listening to the opposition on issues of national importance. This is an issue of monumental importance, and it's important for the Prime Minister, after he has finally come into the House, to make that effort to sit down and reassure us that he's going to listen to us and take our suggestions and heal the nation's pain.
So what you wanted was
earlier in the day,
so what you wanted was that Mr. Modi must be seated there in the Rajya Sabha for the whole day.
Manmohan Singh speak during 0 hour, what kind of commitments, yes, we want it during the entire discussion.
Okay.
All right, that is our demand. And then I'm just pointing out, during 0 hour today, when former Prime Minister was going to speak, the BJP, in a very shameful manner, prevented him from speaking.
That is a different point.
So
let's stick to the issue on which you disrupted the House. You didn't disrupt the House over that. Okay. Let's bring in Pinaki Mishra, and I want to put to you the point being made by Mr. Gowda. Now, Ghulam Nabi Azad claimed during his debate that the 2G debate that happened in 2013, at that time Arun Jaitley, as leader of the opposition, had demanded that Dr. Manmohan Singh be present in the Rajya Sabha right through the debate. And Dr. Manmohan Singh was. Apparently he was there for 2 full days right through the debate. If that is the case, does Congress have grounds for demanding the same of Mr. Modi today? That Mr. Modi also be present right through?
Karan, can I give you my personal view on this matter? I think the Congress fell into a trap laid by the government today. They would have been well advised to allow the debate to continue and for the Prime Minister to reply today. I think the Congress was taken aback by Manmohan Singh ji's scathing attack. I think Manmohan Singh ji called upon the Prime Minister to personally assure the House of some fresh steps that he should take to ameliorate the people's grievances. The Prime Minister has spoken, I think, 3 speeches so far, very passionate speeches. He didn't want to, I think, repeat himself in the Rajya Sabha and what he has already said very passionately and very compellingly earlier. I think he needed time to prepare. And that's why he deliberately absented himself in the post-lunch session. The Congress neatly fell for the trap. Immediately set about disrupting the House. They've given the Prime Minister a chance now, firstly, to hold a cabinet meeting again today. Within 2 days, a second cabinet meeting has been held. I have no doubt some fresh proposals are going to come out to try and solve people's problems. And then the Prime Minister will come back armed with better facts, figures, and with a new line of thinking to reply to the Congress. And they've given the Prime Minister time. He wanted to buy time today, and I think they've given him time. They've fallen into the government trap.
So I'm just underlining for the audience the rather important but somewhat subtle point you're making, that if the Congress had allowed the debate to continue and not disrupted the House, the Prime Minister, you're suggesting, would have been at a loss. He wouldn't have known how to respond to Dr. Manmohan Singh. He wouldn't have had any practical suggestions to offer to ameliorate the hardship people are facing, and therefore the Prime Minister, if he'd spoken today, would have not only been at a loss, he'd have been embarrassed. But now, by disrupting the debate, they've given the Prime Minister time with his colleagues to work out, and when he does speak, he'll be so much better armed. Is that what you're saying, Pinaki?
Absolutely. No question. They fall into a trap outright. There's no question in my mind.
Let me very quickly go back to Rajiv Gowda before I go to my other guests. Have you just heard, Mr. Gowda, what Pinaki Mishra said? That had you allowed the debate to continue, the Prime Minister would have been at a loss. You could have had him embarrassed. But you disrupted the House. You've given him time to consult his colleagues, work out what to do. And when he does speak, whatever that is, he will be in command of the situation once again. You've lost an opportunity, in other words.
They'll get a very sharp response.
If the Prime Minister has been listening to the voices of the people of India, if the Prime Minister has been listening to all the concrete suggestions that we have already given on the first day of the debate, you will see that he would have, for example,
I heard your first day of the debate and there were no concrete suggestions you gave. And secondly, you're flanneling at the moment, forgive me being brutally frank. You're not actually answering my question.
No.
Did you let the Prime Minister off the hook? Have you made a tactical mistake?
Let me give you an answer. Not at all. Not at all, because we want the people of India to see that the Prime Minister has been afraid to come to Parliament, and again, after spending 1 hour and giving a commitment that he would be there.
If you wanted the people of India to see the Prime Minister at a loss, you should have let him speak as Pinaki Mishra is suggesting, and they would have seen him at a loss. But by disrupting the speech and Parliament, when he does speak, the people of India will see him in command.
One second. the people of India would not have seen him speak today in any case.
How do you know
because there
that?
were another 25 speakers.
How do you know that?
And there is no strict time limit on how much they're going to speak. I'm one of the speakers. I'm one of the speakers listed, Karan. I know that my turn wouldn't have come today. So that is the situation.
Okay.
Unless we work right through midnight. So it wouldn't have come today. He would
Well,
have
that's
had
what you're
adequate
saying.
time. So
But you
Pinaki
can't
Mishra's
pass that
point
off
is
as fact.
interesting,
That's
but
your
it is totally
opinion. You
misguided
can't
and
pass it
off the
off as fact.
mark.
Kirit Somaiya, let me bring you in. Because given the fact that your government has... Professor Gowda, let me bring in Kirit Somaiya. Kirit Somaiya, given the fact that it's in your interest, in your government's interest that the Rajya Sabha should function, why could the Prime Minister not have returned after lunch and sat there? That would have ensured that once again the opposition couldn't disrupt. That would have ensured that the House would function, and that's what you want more than anything else. So I put the same question to you. Have you made a tactical error in absenting the Prime Minister? And let's be honest, he could have prepared himself sitting in the Rajya Sabha too.
Karan, you can understand he is the Prime Minister. He is every time, means in several times he participated in debate. And it is never expected a Prime Minister of the country. The concerned minister has to sit. Yes, he has to sit. Here the concerned minister is Arun Jaitley. Prime Minister many times intervene or participate in debate. We have seen that he takes the debate, he takes the information, he prepares himself, he has to do several other work. Now next week we may have debate discussion in Lok Sabha. There also the opposition may insist, I don't know, they may insist. So what is your expectation?
You're sidestepping my point, Mr. Somaiya. You're sidestepping my point, Mr. Somaiya. My point was a simple one. Your government needs the Rajya Sabha to function. Did you tactically make a mistake by the Prime Minister not being there after lunch? After all, if he'd stayed after lunch, they wouldn't have disrupted the House and you'd have got what you want more than anything else, a functioning House.
See what we did, Prime Minister respected the opposition, honorable former Prime Minister, and now Congress got exposed. They are in a way disturbed, and that's why they are going for disruption.
Okay, Mr. Raja, let's take up a point made by Kirit Somaiya. The Prime Minister is, after all, the Prime Minister. And that's why he's different to any other parliamentarian. That's why he's different to any other minister. Now, there are many things he has to attend to. Secondly, even if he's not in the House, he can follow the proceedings of the House from his parliamentary office. And thirdly, he had anyway, through Mr. Jaitley, promised to return and speak. So his absence was only a temporary absence. Why, therefore, was that not sufficient for the opposition to accept? Surely you don't believe he's going to have to give up absolutely everything else he has to do and spend the whole day in the Rajya Sabha just so that the opposition's distrust is appeased?
Ms. Karan, it is known to everybody, Prime Minister is Prime Minister, he is Prime Minister of India, he has many things to do, everyone knows it. But the point here is, today is Prime Minister's question day. That is why he was present during question hour. That day the opposition, that time the opposition parties raised the issue of resuming the debate in the presence of Prime Minister. So Prime Minister sat through for 1 hour. But actually the debate should have continued in the afternoon. But Prime Minister did not turn up. We want, the parties in opposition want a proper debate. That debate should be meaningful one. If that has to be meaningful, the presence of Prime Minister is necessary. And it is Prime Minister who made the announcement outside Parliament. When
Mr. Raja,
Parliament was
Mr.
summoned
Raja,
to meet for
he
winter
was
session,
present
and
when perhaps the most important part of the debate happened today, Dr. Manmohan Singh's scathing critique. He was present. Now, all I'm asking is a simple question. He's also committed himself to return and speak through Arun Jaitley. In other words, Arun Jaitley made the commitment the Prime Minister would come back and speak. But does the Prime Minister have to be present in the Rajya Sabha for every single moment? Can he not go and do some other work and come back?
No, No, listen to me. That all we understand. We know who is Mr. Arun Jaitley. He is finance minister. He is the concerned minister. He will be replying. That all we know. But the decision has been announced by Prime Minister when the Parliament has been summoned for winter session. And Prime Minister goes on making speeches outside Parliament on the very same issue when
Mr.
the Parliament
Raja,
is in session.
Mr. Raja, you're overlooking the fact that twice in the Rajya Sabha today, Arun Jaitley said the Prime Minister will speak. You've got a commitment he'll speak. All I'm asking is, does he have to be seated in the Rajya Sabha right through the debate? Can he not go away, do other work, and then come back in time to speak? Why can't he do that?
No,
Why is that
Prime
not
Minister
sufficient for you?
What I'm saying, Prime Minister can go away, he can do many things inside Parliament, outside Parliament.
But that's all
Nobody is questioning that.
Then why are you disrupting the House when he does that?
Prime Minister, that is why, don't use that word disruption.
But you did disrupt
Prime
it.
Minister must be
You stormed
present
into the well of the
House.
House and shouted away.
Yeah, no.
What other word would you use if not disruption?
The treasury benches, treasury benches were standing up and they were all shouting, and even yesterday the deputy
All
chairman
what happened
had
yesterday is a different matter.
Question the treasury benches.
Okay, let me bring in Mr. Roy. Mr. Roy,
So,
Arun Jaitley, at a press conference that was held almost immediately afterwards, said that the truth is that the opposition was taken by surprise today. He says you had only 3 people who were willing to speak, and even those 3, he suggests, were not properly prepared. Thereafter, the opposition raised excuses to run away. In other words, you got taken by surprise, you didn't think that the Prime Minister would be present, you didn't think the debate would happen, and when it happened, you were unprepared, you didn't have speakers, and then you looked for an excuse to end the day by disrupting the House. How do you respond to that?
It means that the government wanted to create some suspense. It is beyond the expectations of the parliamentarians in view of the fact it is a question of propriety, it is a question of parliamentary niceties, because Prime Minister is the leader of the nation, and as rightly pointed out by Mr. Raja, when the Honourable Prime Minister has made the announcement outside Parliament a week before the Parliament reassembled, propriety demands that the Prime Minister should come in the House, listen to the debate. It's on a burning issue concerning the entire nation as a whole. And after lunch, there was no assurance from the part of the government that the Prime Minister will come back.
No, forgive me, there was an assurance from Arun Jaitley that the Prime Minister will speak. That means he will come back. There was an assurance from Mr. Jaitley given twice that the Prime Minister will speak, and forgive me, that assurance was acknowledged. That assurance was acknowledged on the floor of the House in an intervention by Ghulam Nabi Azad. He acknowledged it. He referred to it.
No.
Yes.
See, we take this assurance with a pinch of salt. With a pinch of salt, we take this assurance.
Why?
Because for the past 1 week, government did not say that the Prime Minister will come. And they are in a mood to create suspense.
No, why do you take it with a pinch of salt?
Because government...
Explain to me why you take it with a pinch of salt, which is a euphemistic way of suggesting that in fact the assurance is a lie.
Let me explain.
Why are you finding euphemistic ways of claiming that Mr. Jaitley was lying?
Let me explain, please. Yes.
Why?
Let me explain, please. On the other day, in a press conference, the Honourable Finance Minister stated that the things will improve within 2 weeks. Normalcy will be restored within 2 weeks. And the Prime Minister says that give me 50 days time. Who is to be believed?
The two are not the same, but I see how your logic goes, although I'm not sure it stands up to scrutiny. Let me bring in Kirat Sumaya. Kirat Sumaya, what you've just heard Sukhendu Shekhar Roy say, although he said it euphemistically, is that in effect, Mr. Jaitley's assurance that the Prime Minister will speak, the assurance was given twice, is a lie.
I never stated
I can't understand the first day debate started. Prime Minister
I didn't say you said it was a lie. I said in
House.
effect, when you say you take it with a pinch of salt, you're suggesting it's a lie. I phrased myself very carefully, Mr. Roy, and very deliberately. Go ahead, Kirat Sumaya, please answer. In effect, it's been said that your finance minister lied. In effect.
So my point is that, Karan, first day the debate went ahead. Prime Minister was not present for the full day. Then also opposition continued the debate. Today, Prime Minister responded, respected opposition and former Prime Minister. If opposition wants the Prime Minister must intervene or must participate, I can understand. But how they can expect that the Prime Minister should sit for the whole day, for the full debate? First day, why then you started, initiated debate, you went ahead? So that's why my point is that the opposition are disturbed, that what they expected is not happening. That's why they are disrupting the parliament.
Let me bring in Pinaki Mishra, because Mr. Mishra, you're neither of the BJP nor are you of the Congress. In a sense, the BJD, your party, is equidistant between both. The issue at the moment, as far as this discussion is concerned, hinges on the credibility and sincerity of the assurance given twice by the finance minister that the Prime Minister will speak. So Kendra Shekhar Roy says we take it with a pinch of salt, which you know and I know is a euphemistic way of suggesting that it's not sincere, it's a lie. Now, can one attach credibility and sincerity to that assurance given twice by the finance minister? Or is he right to say it should be taken with a pinch of salt?
Oh, not at all. I have no doubt that the finance minister was right. The Prime Minister is not one to duck the House. I mean, you know, I can tell you that for sure. I think he was just taken aback. He doesn't want to repeat himself on what he's already stated earlier. I think he wanted a little time to come up with something new in the Rajya Sabha. But he's not one to run away from the House or to duck the House. There's no question. When the Finance Minister says that he will very much lead the charge, in fact, he will now lead a blistering counter-charge, because he will be fully prepared now to lead an absolutely blistering counter-charge. I have no doubt. It's a mouth-watering prospect now to hear him in the House, because he's always a brilliant speaker.
Yes, but I'm going to interrupt you there. You're assuming that there are easy to discover, easy to agree on specific practical things that can be done to ease the suffering. That may not be quite as easy as you're assuming, because the situation, as Dr. Manmohan Singh is suggesting, is so catastrophic that the solution is not going to be easy, which means it may not be blistering when he speaks. But let's leave that aside. That's just an aside. Let me end with you, Mr. Gowda. There's no doubt that Dr. Manmohan Singh's speech before lunch was devastating. It's had a huge impact, and clearly tomorrow morning's papers will carry it as the main front page story. I'm almost certain of that. Now, if in this circumstance you had allowed the House to continue, you had more speakers who were willing to stand up and speak, maybe not as effectively as Dr. Manmohan Singh, but nonetheless powerfully, the overall impact tomorrow in the papers would have been that much greater. But by disrupting the House, you minimize the impact that you could have got. And your aim is to push the government against the wall. But by not letting the House continue, you've actually eased the problem for the government a little. That's another reason why this is a tactical mistake on your part.
Hardly, Karan. I think you got it all wrong. Dr. Manmohan Singh will be the centerpiece of national news attention tomorrow. And as every day unfolds, there are more crises and more failures on the part of the government's management or mismanagement of this issue. So there is no shortage of opportunity for future speakers, including me, to put the government on the mat and to try and correct the mismanagement to ensure that the people don't suffer further. This is not any kind of tactical blunder, and there is nothing that the Prime Minister can do when he speaks that will turn things around, because people are feeling, their felt experience is different from the random rhetoric of the Prime Minister, and they can see that difference and feel that difference. That dissonance will come out loud and clear, and they will say this man is all talk, no action.
We're running out of time. I'm going to have to stop you there, Mr. Gowda. We're running out of time. I have to stop you there. My apologies. We're running out of time. But good luck for your speech whenever it happens. My thanks to all my guests for joining me. And if you have been, thanks for watching. Goodbye. Good night.